the secrets of the social media through the social universe, but the secrets of the universe itself. And sometimes we have to start locally for those secrets in order to have a universal impact. And I think nowhere have we seen that recently more true than the Arizona's controversies that have reached national and international levels. So John, in these last 13 minutes or so, if you could cover what an administration with you at the helm would be like in law enforcement, and the overall paradigm of how you would manage, and essentially what makes you unique in comparison to Sheriff Arpaio.
Thank you. First and foremost, Maricopa County, I would stop it from being a laughing stock that it has become nationally and internationally. I would work to help, even in law enforcement, to assist in economic growth here. Instead of just having our prisoners sit in a tent city and wasting time, why aren't we working in partnership with other businesses? Why aren't we bringing solar power farms here? And instead of just having the prisoners dig around on a farm, which is almost useless, have them get a real skill in business and a leg up so that when they do come back into our society, they now have a trade.
I have often thought that. We had a big town hall meeting with, John McCain, when I was in college all those years ago. They were asking, what could we do for prison reform? And that was the biggest burning thing that I had is, let's release people who have skills back into the workforce so that they're not repeat offenders. And we may have gotten something done positive, like solar, in the meantime.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, I'll give you the floor.
And instead of just having a politician run a police agency, let's have someone who knows how to reform a police agency, make it efficient and effective, and one that knows how to get community outreach and partnership. One that would like to work with local businesses and form a partnership and find out what are their security needs. And work together, and let's lower crime. Let's take care of victims. Let's restore the dignity back to MCSO, because there are a lot of professionals inside MCSO that want to work hard and want to do the right thing, but they're in such a dysfunctional organization right now that they can't even stand out or move ahead.
I would agree, and I would definitely give credence to that track record of the 74% reduction in crime in New York City. I mean, I can't see a bigger job than that to tackle and to have done a phenomenal job on. So if you had a record like that, I don't think anybody would be complaining after a first year in office.
And we do have a large elderly population here, and I've come up with a new community outreach program that doesn't exist anywhere called Senior Safety Surveys, where a member, a volunteer, which we call a posse member, will come to their house, go through their house, and look for ways to make it safer so that elderly people don't get involved in accidents, don't trip in the kitchen, the bathroom, get hurt, and then look for crime prevention issues within that house to make it a harder target so that burglars go somewhere else. And that doesn't exist anywhere in any police department that I'm aware of.
Great ideas, definitely.
Yeah. I'm also strongly anti-1070.
Okay.
And if you've noticed, the way that it has been enforced in Maricopa County has resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars worth of lawsuits. 2 federal judges have already gone on record saying the way that 1070 is being enforced in Maricopa County is immoral and illegal, and I agree with those judges.
Okay. Very good. And then, even though 1070 is something that happened, in the previous administration, who knows what the future will bring? What is the overall difference in the way you would handle a new, something else, where you never know what the legislature is going to create, right? But how would you handle a new type of 1070 rule that may come out? I mean, it doesn't even have to be 1070, but something that you may see that there's national implications and potentially international implications.
By treating all parties involved with dignity and respect, and bearing in mind that we all live underneath the same Constitution, you cannot just pull people over because they have tan skin and ask them, what's their point of entry. I mean, could you imagine, because we do have a large population of Canadians, that come here, particularly in the winter. If we just started pulling over Caucasians with blue eyes because we wanted to see if Canadians are violating their visas, I mean, how long would that last here? But yet the way 1070 has been enforced in Maricopa County, it's been race-based and it's done nothing except resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits.
That makes sense. Obviously, you would inherit this problem. So, what would be what would be the practices that you would put into place that might alleviate some of the economic impact that's happened to Arizona? I'm not saying that you yourself would bring the economy back, but obviously there have been the economy has been impacted. What would be your method of healing some of those wounds?
I would create an environment where economics could flourish and not make it like a police state and not have people worry that if they hold a conference here, they're going to be rounded up and deported.
Sure. Along those lines, kind of, and bringing back something that was near and dear to my heart, there was we were in Vegas one time, and I just, when I was young, there was a picture that I saw, a medieval picture, in my father's history books, about some highwaymen that had accosted somebody on the highway, on the little road, and had an axe raised and were getting ready to cut them apart. And there was a woodsman about 100 yards deeper in the woods, and he had an axe, and he was just calmly chopping down a tree. So I asked my father, why does the woodsman just stand by and not help the person on the highway who is about to be cut to death? And he said, you don't understand that there's systemic problems. If they go and try to fix what's on the highway, then their own families will become in danger. And he kind of tried to explain what was going on, and I think that was the reason for that artistic depiction is that's what was wrong with this society at that time. And so I just, from that time forward, I've carried with me, we were in Vegas one time, and we heard a woman screaming, and everybody else is like, "Oh, women!" And they kept on to their. We were with a group of about 10 people, but I dropped my luggage and I ran toward the sound of the woman to find out where she was. And I would get closer, farther away. I couldn't find, and the screaming went on for 2-3 minutes until I discovered it was coming from the woman's bathroom. So we, violated social protocol and broke in, and there was a man that was beating up a young woman in the bathroom stall. There was blood everywhere, and we did call the police, but when they came, she wouldn't press charges because she was an illegal immigrant. So the point is that there's a lot of rights of humanity that are lost.
You might have saved a life.
And yeah, I probably did save a life, but how many how many women get abused like that because they're illegal immigrants and they don't feel like they have the right to be able to stand up and say, hey, I should not be treated this way in this country.
And the way the law was originally written, there was no exception in SB 1070 for the victims of crime. So if you were the victim of a crime, just like that woman, and she walked into a district at MCSO, they could ask her, are you here legally? And knowing the way MCSO rolls, that would have been the end of the investigation.
Right.
And Kurt, you mentioned earlier, I just want to put out there, if anyone is interested in finding out more what I'm about, they can go to www.rowan, R-O-W-A-N, reform, R-E-F-O-R-M, 2012.com.
Is there a place to donate to your campaign on that website?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Say that again.
It's www.rowan, which is R-O-W-A-N, the word reform, R-E-F-O-R-M, 2012.com. I am a grassroots candidate. There is a primary August 28th within the Democratic Party, which I am looking forward to winning and going forward and becoming the next sheriff of Maricopa County.
Wonderful. And is there a phone number that they can reach one more time?
Absolutely. 602-309-4440. I return all emails and all calls.
Excellent. So we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. Since it is election season, we may be bringing in a few candidates. I am going to, just for the edification of our listeners, and I won't tell you who these candidates are, just for the applied use of the social media, we actually did have a candidate who was a phenomenal person. He had a great background, but when you went to Google his name, his website came up first, but then 18 other websites came up that were landing pages essentially questioning who he was. So his reputation, somebody was damaging his reputation by spending a lot of money in search engine optimization to be able to say a lot of bad things about him, questionable things. They never came out. All they said was, is this man a fraud? Is this man? So they were posing them as questions. I thought it was very slimy, but nonetheless, that's a subject referred to as reputation management. That person needs reputation management. If he had lost the election, which he didn't, strangely enough, if he had lost the election, then he would have spent the next 10 years paying the price of all these websites saying terrible things about him. So these are all things that you want to consider when if you're ever considering running for office and getting the word out. Thanks again for tuning into the Social Universe, where we have applied social media and online advertising. We look forward to tuning in next week, and we thank all of our listeners who follow us every week, and we look forward to tuning in next week. And once again, thank you, Mr. Rowan, for coming and joining us today on today's show.
Thank you. Great for having me, and hopefully we can make a change.
Absolutely.